Hello everyone, I'm Professor Toybox. I've got Anakin's apprentice, Ahsoka Tano, with me today, and I'm continuing work on my Anoat City Sewer Toy Box, where I'm recreating mission number 3 of the 1994 Star Wars Dark Forces game. My goal today is to implement the 4 gates that lead away from this starting island. Each of the gates leads into a tunnel, which you can see around the perimeter of the island here. And each of the 4 gates are controlled by buttons on this island. There's 4 buttons, and each button, when you press it, opens one gate and closes the other 3. And the gates lead into different parts of the sewage treatment facility. So I want to hook that up today. But before I do, I want to show you a couple of things that I changed in the area we worked on last time. So over here in this little elevator platform that leads to a hidden area, if we take that down, I've changed the flooring in here to match the Dusty Crophopper's runway texture that I placed underneath that moving block. So now that texture is used throughout here, and I think that's a little bit more consistent. And it also sets this area apart a little bit from other parts of the level. And I also changed the texture of the block back there behind the moving platform, so it matches the rest of the walls. And I think that looks a lot better. So I didn't want you to miss those changes. So now we'll come back over here to the island and we'll start working on the different gates over here. So as we get started, we'll come in here to the blocks drawer, and I'm going to go ahead and put one more block in to make these gates a little shorter. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it'll match the original game a little bit better. Each of the gates was a lot smaller in the original game as I was reviewing this and comparing. So that makes that a little bit nicer. And for the block that we're going to use for the actual gate, we'll put this down for right now below the terrain. And I'm going to go ahead and change the texture for this, and we're going to use a different texture over here, the Geonosis Droid Factory Floor Grate. And I'm going to set that to be my theme. So there's one. And the next block will be sitting over here. So we'll go ahead and put that down below the terrain. There we go. And another one over here. So we'll put that one down. And the last one for this door over here. And again, I'm putting these below the terrain because I don't want them in the way anywhere the player is going to run. Because the next step is to hook these up to a path. And once we do, as I've mentioned before, the game still thinks the blocks are where they were positioned originally when we connect them to the path, and that's not going to be where I want them. So we'll go ahead and for the first door here, we'll drop our path, and that puts us into point mode, and we want to put this down one texture below, which would be right here. I'm going to go ahead and do just one of these, and I'll do the other 3 offline because they're all identical. So on the path properties, we'll open the logic menu for the path creator and go under properties. And everything under here is fine, but I want to turn off auto start objects when connected. And now we'll come down to our block and open the logic menu for that and select new path connection. And we'll come up to the path creator and say toy box path. So now that places the door above the point and right in the opening there where we want it. And now the block properties for this gate. Everything in here is fine, but we need to change the movement style from loop to one way and stop. I think that'll be the easiest to do this. And there we go. The gate is in position. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing for the other 3 gates here. and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I've got all 4 gates connected to the paths, and they're all in place. So now we need a way to open and close them. And to do that, we got to hook up the buttons. So this first button here, I want to use to open gate number 1. So when that button is pressed, we'll come over here to the path creator. And we're going to say reset and play. And it should only open 1 gate. The other 3 should be closed. So when that one is pressed, we'll come over to each of the other paths and do a reset and stop. And that will put the other gates back in their position. And this way it'll mimic the behavior of the 4 position switch that we saw in the original game, where only one of the gates is open at any given time. When pressed, come over to this one and do reset and stop. So on all the gates, each button is going to do a reset and stop, except on the 1 gate that it's going to open. And this button here, when pressed, will open up that gate. And it'll close the other 3, like I just did for the other one. That button will open gate number 3. And this button over here will open up gate number 4. And so this button then needs to close the other 3 gates. So when it's pressed, come over to this one, do reset and stop. And the same with tunnel number 3. And tunnel number 4. And that button opens tunnel number 3. So it needs to close all the rest. I was going to hook up the other gates offline, but I thought it might be beneficial just to show you how it all goes together. Each button is a little bit different from the others in that it opens different gates and closes other ones. So bear with me as I hook up the rest of these buttons. And then the last button opened tunnel number 4. So this needs to close 1, 2, and 3. So there's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. And there we go. All those buttons are hooked up. So now we can test them. When we press this button, that door is open. And the other ones are closed. And when we press this one, now that's closed. That one's open. And the other 2 are closed. Pressing this one, closed, open, closed, and closed. And pressing this one, opens up that one and closes all the rest. So there we go. So there's the buttons that close the gates. And to ensure that all of these are closed at the beginning of the level, I'm going to go ahead and drop down a level starter. And this will do a reset and stop on all of these. And this way, as I'm building the level and testing it out and opening up doors and closing them, this gives me a way to get back to the state at the very beginning where all of the gates are closed. And just so that I don't have to close out of the level, save it, exit out, and reload it in order to reset everything. We can also hook up a reset button. That'll make it easy to do that while we're in here. And for the reset button, this is pretty simple now. All we need to do is come over to our level starter and say start, and that will reset all of those controls. So if I come over to my reset button and press it, so there's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, all the gates are closed. So now we're back at the starting state of the level. So that's pretty good. There's one more door though at the start of this area, and that's the one right here that leads into this. And this one's a little bit different than those. So as we close out today, I just want to show you how I'm going to do this door, because we need to do the same thing in a few other places. So I'm going to go ahead and position this one to be here, and I'm going to use a wall texture that's 3 blocks high. So there's 1, 2, 3. That's probably far enough. Could be a little past 3. It doesn't have to be exactly 3, as long as it's not under 3. So we'll come in here, and just like before, on the properties, we're going to do auto start objects when connected and turn that off. And now we'll come back down to the blocks drawer, and we're going to use this larger piece here as our block. And spin this around. Doesn't really matter, I suppose, since it's going in the halfway point. And I'm going to put this underneath the terrain for right now. So that's going to be our block. And I'll go ahead and connect this up to the path. There we go. And there's our door that leads into the island. So now we'll set the properties for that block. And again, everything in here is fine. Movement style we'll set to one way and stop. And while I'm thinking of it, we'll go ahead and hook up the level starter to that as well, to make sure that that's in the right position. Okay, now this particular door doesn't open in response to a button press. It opens when you approach it. And so what I want to do here is, instead of using a button, we're going to use a trigger area. So we'll come up to the Creativitoys and scroll over a little bit till we get to the trigger area. And we're going to put this right about here, I think, right at the bottom of the stairs. And I think that should be fine. We can leave that like that, so that as we approach the door, it'll open. And we only want to do this one time. So if they turn around and run back through there, we don't want to do that again and open the door again. So I'm going to drop down a logic gate. And so on the trigger area, we're going to do a new logic connection when entered by player any. Come up to our logic gate and we'll say input. And the logic gate on output will come over to the path creator and do reset and play. And the other thing the logic gate will do is on output, it'll also come back over to the trigger area and deactivate it. And if we're going to test this multiple times, that means our level starter will need to reactivate that trigger area, like so. I'm going to go ahead and put that down there. So as we enter over here from the starting area, and we come through here, and we run down the stairs, the door is closed, but as we get close to it, the door opens, and as you can see there, I have not moved the gate down far enough. So I'm going to come over here to my path creator, and we're going to move this point down. If I can find it, there it is. Go ahead and move that down. I'm going to put it down one more block. And I want to come up here and reset. And that puts the door back. And the other thing I want to do is we'll go ahead and hook up this logic gate because it was kind of quiet. So we'll do on output, come over to our sound generator that we used last time, and we'll use our humming machinery sound again because I think that worked pretty well. There we go. So now we come down the hallway. There we go. Now we have access to the island, and we can come in here and start pushing buttons to open doors and go off and explore the level. So there we go. The starting island is finished. Next time we'll work on the sewer drain room in tunnel number 3, and I'll show you how to make water that will drain from the room to reveal the hidden door that's there. Thank you for watching my video today. I hope you enjoyed it, or at least found it helpful. If so, please give it a like, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel or sign up on my blog so you can follow my progress. If you want to build this toy box on your own console or PC, you can find floor plans, logic diagrams, and other build tips on my blog to help you out. For now, Ahsoka and I are signing off from Anoat City, and we'll see you next time.